Mr. President, I'm on the Senate floor today as we are beginning the process for this fiscal year of considering appropriation bills. As this process works, there are 12 subcommittees in the Appropriation Committee. We report out 12 bills, presumably, and we're doing that. And the first 4 are potentially being considered this week for consideration by the full Senate. Sometimes there's criticism about the appropriations process, and people who are not members of the committee feel left out. I'm pleased that we're on the Senate floor today where every member, all 100 senators, have the opportunity to add their thoughts by offering amendments, certainly making comments, offering amendments, taking votes, and we ought to make certain that every senator has the sense that they are engaged in the process of determining how taxpayer dollars are spent. Mr. President, I commend the Majority Leader, Senator Thune, for his commitment and his keeping of a commitment that appropriation bills would be considered on the Senate floor in his tenure as the Majority Leader. And we're off to a start today, and I'm pleased that that is happening. The subcommittee report, the appropriation bills that I want to speak just a moment about before we commence a vote at 11, is the Commerce, Justice, Science Appropriation Bill. It's one of the bills that fund a number of segments of the federal government. As the name of the subcommittee suggests, it funds the Department of Commerce, the Department of Justice, and it has the word science in its title, Commerce, Justice, Science. Science is generally thought of as NASA, NOAA, and NSF, National Science Foundation. And our legislation that has been reported out of the subcommittee and reported now out of the full committee, passed with every member of the committee on the Republican side voting in favor of it, and about 4, I think the number is 4 members of the minority party, Democrats, voting for this bill as well. The attempt has been made to, as it takes 60 votes to pass a piece of legislation on the Senate floor by our rules, the attempt has been made to make certain that this is a bill that has bipartisan support, and it does. This legislation is important to the country for a number of reasons, but I would highlight a few. The Department of Justice in particular is where law enforcement, our battle against fentanyl, for example, our battle against crime that is rampant in many cities across the country, and our efforts to defeat our efforts to defeat the battle against violence in our country is directed at the federal level by the Department of Justice. They do so with the various federal agencies, the DEA, the ATF, the U.S. Marshals, and the FBI, but they often work, and I'm glad they do, in conjunction with our local sheriffs and police departments across the country. And this bill funds law enforcement at the federal level and continues to encourage and provide resources for law enforcement, police departments in our local communities, sheriff's departments in our local counties, for their efforts to work together with the federal agencies, the DEA, the FBI. That is the way that we fight crime and have success in this country, is state, local, and federal law enforcement working together. This bill also funds the efforts at the Department of Commerce, particularly in this case related to trade, as President Trump is negotiating with various countries for resolution of tariff issues. The Department of Commerce, and we know that Secretary Lutnick has been engaged in those negotiations, but the Department of Commerce houses the agencies that are responsible for trade policy and trade legislation in this country, including the actual trade ambassador who negotiates trade agreements on an ongoing basis. So this bill funds the Department of Commerce in a number of ways, but I highlight for my colleagues the importance of trade. Learning just this morning, yesterday, that the United States, President Trump and Japan have come together in agreement in regard to tariffs. It also invests in science. This helps us meet our mission to get to the moon, the Artemis program. We have a goal of making certain that the United States of America is on the moon before the Chinese, returns to the moon before the Chinese, and this legislation funds NASA in a way to continue the efforts to support the Artemis program and then reach further as the President has indicated, his desire to see the United States travel to Mars and explore further regions of outer space. This legislation also, I highlight and offer my concerns and condolences to my colleagues from Texas in particular, but across the country who've had weather-related circumstances that has caused tragedy across our nation. This Commerce, Justice, Science bill in the science category funds NOAA, and we're making certain they have the resources to make certain we preserve and save life. This all was done in a way that was designed to make certain that we met our responsibilities to the American taxpayer and we were fiscally responsible. Overall, the budget authority, the ability to obligate funds from the general fund to the Treasury, what most Americans would consider federal spending, because of offsetting credits and fee collections and rescissions, which would have, if they were not there, we removed those. If they were there, we would have been able to spend at higher levels, but because we rescinded those opportunities, the decline let me say it differently. Accordingly, as a result of those things being the case, the real increase in spending power at the Commerce, Justice, Science funded agencies is only $270 million increase, or a 0.037% above the FY25 levels. Almost all of the increase went to the census. The Commerce, Justice, Science is responsible. The Department of Commerce is responsible for the decennial census, and we began our process gearing up for the next census to take place, and so we had to appropriate money for the census. And in addition to that, we found savings, reduced spending, by reducing bureaucratic and workforce funding at both the Department of Commerce and the Department of Justice. My point is that within the allocation that we were provided by the full committee, by the chairman and vice chairman of the committee, Commerce, Justice, Science is within its funding levels, of course, that they allowed us. And while we prioritized the things we thought were most important, we also did so in a way that the increase in spending is less than 1%, and certainly way less than last year, and certainly less than the rate of inflation. Mr. President, I know that the 11 o'clock hour has come. I'm pleased to have conversations with my colleagues about moving this bill forward, and I yield the floor.